All right, welcome to today's live. I'm your host, Joseph Lewin, and today's guest is Joey Odom. Joey is the co-founder of Aro, which is a platform that helps people take control of their time and spend a little bit of less time on screens. So, Joey, thank you so much for joining me today for the show.
Joseph, it's so good to see you. I will admit this is a little intimidating because I am outmanned quite literally by you. You take logs and create cool things with chainsaws. And that's not my skill set. So I mean quite literally outmanned in the presence of greatness here. So it's great to hang out with you, though a little intimidating.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about, really the importance of disconnecting from screens to create quality time with family. And as fathers, and specifically want to talk to fathers because it's really easy to get caught up in your work, the things that you need to be doing, and just be glued to your phone all the time, or watching a game or whatever. And we've all caught ourselves in moments that we could really be creating amazing connection or engaging with our kids on a deep level, or our spouse, and then instead we're just staring at our phone, right? And it's easy for that to happen. So we're going to be diving into that a little bit today, and we're going to be talking about some strategies that we can employ to help disconnect on a regular basis and create that connection with our families. But yeah, Joey, I wanted to kick it off by, do you have some kind of an aha moment for yourself where you all of a sudden realize, like, man, my phone is getting in the way of building that connection I want with my kids?
Yeah, unfortunately, too many. But the one I'd like to take you back to goes back about 11 years. So my son Harrison is now 16 years old, greatest kid in the world. When he was 5 years old, he was still the greatest kid in the world, and just a sweet kid, kind of high EQ. He was playing his first season of soccer. And for anybody who has been involved in youth sports or seen maybe particularly youth soccer, you'll notice that the kids who score the most goals appear to be kids who have maybe gotten out of like a work release program, or like parolees. Like, these are aggressive kids who are scoring all the goals. And Harrison was not one of those aggressive kids. So everybody on the team had scored a goal this season except for Harrison. And so we lug out the lawn chairs for another Saturday to kind of, I hate to say it, kind of endure an hour of soccer. But midway through this particular game on this particular Saturday, something really, truly extraordinary happened. And again, it was about midway through, and Harrison's standing in front of the ball. He rears back his leg and he kicks the ball. And in this moment, Joseph, it plays in my mind almost like a slow motion movie, like a dramatic Braveheart moment with the James Horner music in the background as the ball glides over the grass into the back of the net for Harrison's first soccer goal. And these sweet parents, all of them went crazy. They knew that Harrison was the last kid to score a goal, so they all went crazy. His coach ran out on the field and picked Harrison up. But there was this little split second in between the ball hitting the back of the net and his coach picking him up when Harrison did something that I think 5-year-old boys do. It's kind of built into their DNA. So he turned to the sidelines to lock eyes with me, right? To see the pride on my face and the smile on my face and share this magical moment. And it really, truly was magical, except for one thing. And that one thing is that I missed it. Is that I missed every single bit of what I just described. See, when Harrison looked over at me, all he saw was the top of my head because I was looking down at my phone. And Joseph, I don't know. People ask, like, oh, well, what were you looking at? And surely it was something really important. And the truth is, I have no idea what it was. But what I do know is this, is that moment sparked something inside of me. And it was just a simple statement, which is something's wrong. That something is wrong with this relationship. I have and I'm going to be very specific about this word. I have a relationship with this little rectangle in my pocket. And that relationship is getting in front of all the most important relationships in my life. And I just, and again, it was a feeling of dis-ease that just said, something's wrong with this picture. This is not what I intended when I married Kristen and when we planned to have kids, when we had Harrison and Gianna. This is not what I planned, is to let a relationship with an object subvert all of those things. So that was my light bulb moment. And that was sadly one of multiple light bulb moments, big or small. That's probably the most dramatic one. You only get one first soccer goal. But that was the thing, was something here is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say that for me, it's not necessarily one like dramatic moment like that. It's more like I'm just catching myself
Mm,
where my kids are doing something that
yeah.
they want me to be involved. Whatever. Maybe they're playing with toys on the floor, and I could
Mm,
be jumping in and joining in and playing with them. And whatever I do, they like love it. We could be wrestling, or there's all kinds of
yeah.
things that we could be doing that'd be awesome and super fun. And instead, I'm just zoning out on my phone looking at something, and definitely caught myself doing that
Yeah.
um, fairly regularly, definitely more than I'd like to admit, like you
Yeah,
said.
and the thing is, for for everybody listening, this is not something that we need to just beat ourselves over the head with. I think we talk a lot too. We talk to moms and we talk to dads. I think moms already innately have a lot of mom guilt going on, the ways they don't feel like they're living up. I think dads, we can speak. We sometimes need to get hit over the head with a 2x4. That's kind of a good thing for us. So I do think it's good for us to be very honest with ourselves and say those things and realize that. And I have the perspective, I have the benefit of time, the passage of time with, again, having a 16-year-old son, is I'm seeing the compounding effects, right? I'm seeing the compounding effects of those things, good and bad. And those things do build up. And you just mentioned with your kids, it reminds me of a quote, and I'll get it a little bit wrong, but it's basically like, listen to every little thing your kid says when they're young. And when they're old, they'll tell you the big things, because to them all along they've been big things. So even the little
Mm.
silly thing when they're young, they're telling you about dreaming about an alligator that was wrestling with a tiger or something like that. You kind of want to check out, right? But that is a big thing to them. And so you are conditioning them for the relationship that you're going to have with them down the road. And if you can get those little moments right, they're so huge, and it's such a cool opportunity. And yes, this is a beat over the head with the 2x4, but it's also, this is the most hopeful opportunity I think we have as dads, Joseph. Like, what a freaking cool thing that we can get this right from a very, very young age, setting a precedent for our kids to want to come talk to us and want to say, hey, dad, look at this project I did at school. Hey, dad, look at this thing that I did. That's a wonderful thing that we want to continue on, but we have to have the foresight to get those things right now. And just one thing, no matter what stage people are listening, whether your kids are very young, whether they're teenagers, whether in their 20s, they may be adults now. I just want to encourage you by saying, yes, it's always great the earlier you can do it, but it's never too late. And we have to start this today. So I'm hopeful that in our
Mm.
conversation, people can hear this and say, okay, I can begin this right now. I don't need to overcomplicate this. I could begin this thing that we're talking about today.
Yeah, so let's dive into that. I mean, the first thing I wanted to ask you about is just the role that fathers specifically play. I mean, I I don't think that it's a surprise to anybody that moms typically are spending much more time
Yeah.
engaging with their kids. And so when we're talking about family and we're talking about kids, I think culturally, uh, dads are just kind of seen as maybe some extra, extra
Mm,
on the side, or gravy as far as the amount of time or effort they're putting into their kids. And then, in my experience, I've seen kind of the family dynamic being driven much more by moms than by fathers. And so it's easy, I feel like for men, we tend to, if something's already happening, we tend to take a back seat. It's like, okay, if
mm,
this is already happening, if my wife is kind of driving an effort or there's something going on, then maybe I just kind of step back a little bit. But instead, what role can fathers play in creating a
yeah.
culture of connection? If that's something you want and you want to be seeing, spending more time with your kids or creating that culture in your family,
Mm.
what role do fathers play in doing that?
I'm very convinced of this, is that if a man doesn't lead, and I'm gonna qualify what I mean by that in a second, but if a man doesn't lead, their wife will lead. The women are these beautiful like gap fillers where they'll come in if they see a lack of leadership in an area, they will come in and do it themselves, because women have these brilliant brains that connect things. They're always connecting things. That's why when I bring up, hey, I was thinking about doing this next Thursday, my wife knows the 10 implications that come along with that, right? And so women's brains naturally connect things. And so when they see a lack of leadership in an area that they believe is important, if they see that lack, then they're going to step in and do it themselves, right? And so I believe in some ways it's almost like It's almost like they're stepping in. They wouldn't have a need to step in if we weren't properly initiating in those areas, right? And there are some areas where it's just like they're just better at that, and that's a great thing as well. So that's one. And when I'm talking about leadership, I think we as men have a tendency to lead by making big drastic proclamations. And that's not always bad. That's not always bad, but what's better is for us to model. What's better is us to live that out instead of saying like, hey, we're going to connect today. Just put, you can put aside your phone and you just go do it. You just model that. And then with our kids, we know like more is caught than taught. And so if we can do a really good job of just stepping in and modeling that way, then that kind of thing will happen more naturally. And it will, I mean, I don't know about you, but like being told something is you naturally rise up at defensive-ness. And so if we as men can begin to model this and understanding, and I think one reason why why we might not subconsciously, why we may not take the initiating role, and I'm going to say initiating instead of leadership, why we don't initiate. One reason why we may not initiate is we have no idea this infinite power we have in our initiation, what that does for our spouses. I'm just telling you, this is an aside. This is related, but it's an aside. And this is a message to myself. I'm looking at a mirror here. We have no idea how meaningful it is to our wives when we ask them on a date night and when we plan it and we figure out the childcare for the kids and we do that stuff, because all that stuff feels like logistics. But what it really is it's a message to our wives that, hey, you're important enough for me to go through certain levels of complication, maybe in things that I'm not even that good at, because I want time with you. And what a freaking powerful thing that we can do by doing that. And with our kids, like we have this ability to initiate, knowing that like that is like filling them up. There's nothing more innate inside of our children than the need for our eyes on them. Right. So I think just as a basic premise, I would hope like that every guy here, whether you're married or you have kids, or maybe you're even in a friendship or you're dating somebody, I think we need to really recognize our power. And when I say that, that's not toxic masculinity. I'm saying we have an ability to make the people around us, this infinite power, to make them feel loved and special and beloved. And what a beautiful ability we have. So when you can recognize that, then I think that, and really own that, you can step into that and recognize how important every bit of initiation is to the people around you.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I totally agree. I mean, it's really powerful when a father puts his phone down and says, hey, I'm going to give my full attention to what's going on in front of me. I mean, it's incredibly powerful to take an intentional approach to the way that you're handling life, but especially in these moments where you're gone at work all day, you get home and you're totally fried. It's so easy to just zone out, and maybe your wife's putting the kids to bed and you're like, okay, cool, I'm just going to zone out. But man, it really is powerful when you can take a leadership role and really go, hey, no, this is a moment where I can really connect intentionally with my family. So what are some for people who are listening in? Well, first of all, if you are joining us live, let us know where you're joining from. Leave a comment. If you have a question or something that you're trying to work through, trying to figure out, post a comment. Love to hear from you. But yeah, Joey, when it comes to you want to be more intentional, what are some strategies or tactics that fathers can take to be more intentional in creating those moments of connection and disconnecting from screens?
Yeah, I want to start. I'm going to go backwards from the order that I normally go here, and I want to dovetail on what you just said. You said something so ridiculous that I don't think people caught it, and it's something that we say all the time too. So when I say ridiculous, I'm kind of tongue in cheek there. What you just said is like the power of putting your phone down and looking somebody in the eyes. It's so ridiculous. And I say that because it's so simple. And yet I believe in 2024, that is maybe the most powerful physical act that you can do in any relationship. And it sounds so, wait a second, putting down our phones. And by the way, we as fellows, we do a really great job of overcomplicating things. My daughter and I went on a daddy-daughter dance a few years ago when she was younger, and they had a question. They said they had like a little craft station. and it said, what's something you would like to do with your daughter for fathers to fill out? What's something you'd like to do with your father for daughters to fill out? So, both of you write down something. So my daughter, I wrote down, go to Paris with Gianna. That's something that I would love to do. Gianna said, go ice skating around the corner. Like, there's an ice skating rink around our house. And I had this epiphany, like, here I am. I want to do something with Gianna that's so grand, that's going to take a couple of years of savings and a bunch of planning. And she just wants to do something tomorrow afternoon at the ice skating rink. So fellas, let's not overcomplicate this. If you're dad, like we are so good at overcomplicating. The simplest act, the smallest act is so powerful. So we talk about the 3 S's, ways to change your relationship with your phone, tactical things that you can do. And the third one is, I'm going to start this one now, is for you to search for moments of connection. Search for moments of connection. And it's going to sound so basic, but it's so powerful. And those moments of connection are happening all around us. And you have to really be in tune with the people around you. So a moment of connection could be something like my son saying, oh, Dad, I need to tell you what happened at tennis practice today. Or my daughter saying something like, oh, I really had a hard history test. Or my wife saying, hey, I'm kind of struggling with something. Or can I talk to you about something? Those little moments, what they're making, these are bids asking for us to pay attention to them. And the only appropriate response in those moments, is to say what I think are the 6 most powerful words in the English language in a relationship in 2024. And it's so dumb. It's, let me put down my phone. And just say those words. Let me put down my phone. And then physically put your phone away. That physical act is so important. Go put it in a drawer. If you have an Aro box, which is our business, put it in an Aro box. Throw it on the couch, whatever that is. And then sit and make eye contact with the person in front of you. And the reason why that physical act is so important is because it bestows value on that person across the table from you. And what you're really saying when you put your phone down is you're saying to them is that there are theoretically 8 billion people on this planet who can reach me on my phone. And you are more important than every single one of them. So let's think real quick what that does. What does that do for a 14-year-old girl who is deluged every day with insecurities and anxiety and seeing, body image comparison online and all that kind of stuff? What does that do for her innate self-worth? If she encounters those things and she can say, yeah, this is hard, but I know my dad loves me because I see his eyes fixed on mine. What does that do for my son, a 16-year-old boy, a young man who wants to become a good man? What does that do for my wife? We've been married for 20 years. What does that do for that intimacy in our marriage? I believe we are in an intimacy crisis right now across America. I think we have this intimacy crisis, and it's happening. It's happening by one glance at a time at our phones. I call this a death by 1,000 glances. It's killing our intimacy and relationships. And we have this ability, we have this ability to restore that intimacy one instance like that at a time. So if there's one thing, literally the one thing that every one of us can do today is you can, when somebody around you that you love wants to talk to you, say it just real quickly, almost casually, oh, let me put down my phone, and go physically remove your phone from that situation. That will have unbelievable power. And yes, this sounds way too simplistic, but I promise you it's not. And then all of a sudden, you're going to condition those people around you that they can trust you, that they can open up to you. They're going to initiate more. You're going to initiate more. That relationship that may feel a little bit damaged. And by the way, they may feel skeptical if they're not used to this. But by doing that simple thing, that is going to do enormous things as a daily deposit in those relationships that are most important to you.
Yeah, man, I love that. That's super helpful to be thinking through that. And an example for me that I've recognized, I have 4 kids, and my youngest daughter is 3, and she'll come up and she'll grab my hand and be like, "Hey, will you come play with me?" And it's such a precious age where she wants me to do that. And my tendency is to be like, oh, I'm in the middle of something. Whatever, let me finish this. I gotta, respond to this comment from some crazy person on YouTube, whatever, know, and it's easy to just be like, hold on. But I've really been working on intentionally, if at all possible, to just be like, yeah. And then it could legitimately just be a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever I can squeeze in. But even if it's just a minute to sit down and play, and that builds such meaningful connection with her. And what's the alternative? I answer one more comment, or I send out one more email or whatever. And, I think this applies
Yeah.
both if you're in the business world and, you're on your phone, you're sending out contracts, it's one more outreach message you could send or whatever.
Yeah.
There's definitely this push for being an alpha male and hustle culture and, all this stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, at what cost? And
Yeah.
maybe that extra email that you're sending out is keeping you from building that connection. So, just if you're going to do that, if you're going to be on your phone, at least taking a second to go, well, what am I giving up to send this extra email? And is it worth that cost in the long run for me to miss these moments?
And bro, she's gonna stop asking someday, and we can and she's gonna stop asking. She's gonna stop grabbing your hand. She's gonna stop asking you to play. And we want to delay that moment as long as possible. When our kids criticize us for being on our phones, by the way, and I think that we may relate to that. Dad, you're always on your phone. Dad, put down your phone. That's a great thing. We love that. You should celebrate that because it means that your kids like you, and it means that they think they're valuable enough for you to spend time with them. And so when they stop asking for that, that's when you need to get concerned. But the fact, if they're giving you a hard time now, freaking celebrate that, lean into that and say, you know what, you're right. I am on my phone a lot. Let me put this thing away. Let's go play. And that's gonna give them that innate sense of value that believes that they are important, which, by the way, doesn't just impact your relationship. That sets a precedent for every relationship they'll have in life. And it sounds so silly. It does begin with your phone. This is where it starts and ends right now. This is a lever. So a lever is something that requires minimum input that gives maximum output. We're always looking for levers in life. This is our lever. Like this is it. If you screw up everything else, like get this one right, I promise you it will pay multiple dividends on the investment you're putting in.
All right. So I want to get really practical here for the situation that I run into. So I create content for a living. And mostly I'm working in the business world where I'm teaching people how to create content for LinkedIn and working with them to close big deals, just usually, with sales teams and stuff like that. So there's a lot of being on my phone, both between creating content and emails and, all the different being on phone calls all the time. And then I have my channel that I'm streaming, my channels that I'm streaming this on, where I'm creating content that's really just more for fun. But, I'm creating content about cutting logs and burning stuff and, all that. And so between those two things, I'm spending an insane amount of time on my phone. And it's also how I'm making money, I'm making income for my family. So what are some ways that if you do have to be on your phone a lot, what are some ways to really intentionally set limits or, have time blocks where you're not on your phone? I don't know. What are some ways that you can get off your phone if you're required to do that for your job?
Yeah, sure. The one is, and this is one that everybody needs to establish in their home. So this is one of our 3 S's also on what to do about your phone. And that's to establish sacred times and sacred places in your home. So sacred times, sacred places. And when I say they're sacred, that means they are device free. And this is the key, Joseph. You don't have your phone on you. You can't have your phone on you if it's a sacred time or sacred place, because you will continuously be distracted by that thing. And you're going to have to try to, build up all this willpower. Your phone has to be physically distant from you. But in these sacred times and sacred places, it's such an easy one. Like the dinner table is such an easy one. That's such a sacred place. We say it just never goes there. And so then you won't have to fight that temptation, right? The sacred times could be, okay, my kids get home. Let's say you work from home. My kids get home at 3:30 to 4 is a sacred time. And we connect for those 30 minutes. And then outside of that, you can go. So it creates a little bit of a non-negotiable and easy framework for you, because our brains will naturally adapt, by the way. Our brains will naturally adapt to those. If you say, these are the sacred times, these are sacred places. So that's a fun exercise. It's going to require some intentionality, some thought, and some iteration, and be okay with that. So that's one. So set that. The other thing that I would encourage people to do, what you just described, what a cool opportunity for you to invite your kids into your world. So we get this question a lot. Our kids are fascinated with what we do. I was in commercial real estate for 15 years. My kids loved hearing about the things that I was working on. And so if you're with your child, and this is not necessarily, and let's distinguish something. If you go on a coffee date with your daughter, that's not the time for this. That's a sacred, that's sacred. That's a sacred time. Leave your phone in the truck like I do. Like that's a great thing to do. But I'm talking about more these times when you're working and your daughter comes in and says, Daddy, you want to play? And you're like, oh, I would love to play. Hey, let me show you what I'm doing right now. And narrate. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them about the
like
video
that.
that you did. It's going to require a little bit more time. It's not going to be quite as convenient. It's going to be a 10-minute task instead of a 5-minute task. But let them come into your world. They are going to love that and make it special. So it doesn't have to be, because by the way, this is how all these things worked when we were younger. When our parents were on the phones at our home, we could hear what was going on. And so it actually sparked further conversation. We were kind of wrapped into each other's worlds.
Yep.
So to put a bow on this, 2 things: establish sacred times and sacred places that are device free. Your phone is not physically with you. And then the second one is invite your kids into those moments. Let them hear what's going on in your world. Explain to them the work that you're doing. They are going to absolutely love it, or they're going to get bored and they're going to walk away and not want to hang out with you anymore. And that's fine too, right? Then you can get a little bit of work done.
Yep. No, I love that, man. And it's in our culture, we've just split so much between work and home.
Yeah.
And I mean, traditionally it just wasn't that way, right?
Yeah.
You'd have family businesses and your kids would be involved in your business from the time they're super young.
Absolutely.
Where they're learning from you. And then now we're like, oh, go off to school and go learn there. And, it's totally disconnected. But to your point, we can be bringing our kids in to where they can get exposure to, work things that are going to help them in their career. That's going to help them develop skills. It's going to help them be thinking more, especially as they get older and in their teen years and stuff like that. They're going to start putting things together that their peers won't, because they've been having these little moments, even if it's 5 minutes once a week where that's happening, it really builds those muscles and things in them as they're growing up. One thing you talked about was sacred moments. And one thing that we've really been intentional about as a family is the dinner table, and making one change. I'll say it this way: like, if you want to be more intentional as a family or as a father, and you want to create those sacred moments, pick one meal once a week where it is required that everybody in the family be there, that their phones are away, and that you talk one at a time. And if you do that, it makes a massive difference. And then make it 2 days a week and 3 days a week, and start expanding that. And especially with little kids, like to the point where when you have dinner, you're eating primarily 3-4 days out of the week as a family, where your phones are put away and you have those sacred moments. And then have one meal once a week that's a super special meal, where when you gather around, you eat special food and you do special things, and it's a ritual that your family's planning on. And if, to your point, your phones are in the middle of that, forget about it.
Done.
You're not going to create sacred moments around the table if your child's talking about their day and what was going on and what was exciting to them, important, and you're like, oh, hold on a second, and you look at a notification on your phone. So,
by the way, that does major damage. I hope people understand the damage that does in doing that, because what that does, it doesn't just kill that moment. It doesn't just kill intimacy in that moment. When I say intimacy, I mean this like closeness of feeling known and seen. It doesn't just kill that moment, but it kills your children's likelihood of opening up to you in the future, because their sweet little neuroplastic brains are always reforming, they're reshaping. And the message is there. When I try to open up and talk about something that's important to me, Dad shuts me down, so I can't do it again next time. So you're killing intimacy in that moment, and you're killing future intimacy as well. That is catastrophic. And by the way, we all do it, and that's okay. So let's forgive ourselves and get better. Guilt is a good indicator, but not a good motivator, right? So let's not let that motivate. Let's let that guilt be the indicator that I've done something wrong. Let's let the motivator be, I have a freaking awesome opportunity right now to build a relationship with my kids. Like, this is all hopeful. This is all opportunity. This is all upside. And this is the stuff that's going to pay off in our lives a heck of a lot more than responding to a comment or whatever it is that we're doing on our phone, or responding to the most important email we've ever gotten. It doesn't matter. That is not going to pay off nearly as much as the investment that you can make in your kids and your family and your relationships.
Yeah. And we can't see it on this end. It just says LinkedIn user for some reason, but my friend Ray is jumping in on LinkedIn, and he's left a couple comments about, just kind of agreeing with some of the things we're talking about, being involved in things that your kids are doing. If they're
Mm.
doing sports, like get involved in what they're doing and make that a priority in your week. And he said he has 4 daughters, and you take one of them to work every to take your daughter to work day every year, and they'd meet clients and learn about what he's doing. And I mean, yeah, I love that. I think that's so important to be doing things like that.
That's
And
hero stuff right there. I love that.
It just takes intention. It takes being intentional and not just letting things happen. So yeah, to kind of close it off here, you are the co-founder of Aro. So kind of been talking around strategies and stuff like that. But my wife and I, you have an Aro box, and we use the Aro app to kind of help facilitate some of that. So I wanted to talk to you because I know you're the man who's helping with to create more of those moments of connection. So tell us a little bit about how Aro helps families connect more through those sacred moments.
Science is telling us the only way to reduce your screen time is your phone needs to be away from you and out of your visual field of sight. So period. The problem with our relationship with our phones is defined by our constant proximity to them. So we have to break that. So Aro gamifies the experience of being away from your phone through the Aro app, which I know sounds counterintuitive. We're using an app to help you use apps less, but I'm telling you the way that it does that to get you to remove yourself from your phone quantifies the amount of time you're away from your phone, and it makes it actually fun. It makes it something that everybody can do. We do have the Aro box that you can level up to, where you can place your phone in it. It charges your phone, and it connects to the app to quantify the amount of time you're away from your phone. So that's the way that Aro goes about it. And this is one of those things that I believe the best comparison is to exercise, is that we know, all of us know the way to lose weight. What do? You consume a little bit less food, you work out a little bit more, you move a little bit more. That's easy, right? That's a very basic concept. And by the way, you can burn calories for free running around your neighborhood or doing push-ups or sit-ups. Yet most of us belong to gyms, right? The reason why we pay to belong to gyms is because we know how valuable physical fitness is, and we need help removing the friction of doing that valuable thing. It's difficult, it's valuable. So we need help removing some friction. So Aro is for the person who has said, hey, I've tried to get this right on my own and I need a little bit of help. It's for a person who says, like, I know how valuable this is to get off my phone and I need some help. I need a plan. A plan will give me confidence. I need a plan and I need help removing that friction of doing this difficult thing. So that's who Aro is for. And I believe, and I'm highly biased, but I know this from the tens of thousands of people on the platform, is that this makes a difference in families. So for someone who is struggling, this will be the difference maker for you. And you don't have to try, you don't have to just take my word for it. You can go download the Aro app. I'd encourage people who are listening, please do that right now. Download the Aro app absolutely for free for 7 days, a 7-day free trial for you to see, oh, can this be the thing that can unlock this key in my relationships? Can this be the key to unlock that door in my relationship? So I'd encourage people, go download the Aro app, try it for 7 days for free, and see if this is something that can help for your family, and join the tens of thousands of other people whose families it has benefited.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's been super helpful for us to be using that, because like I was saying earlier, I'm having to be on my phone all the time. And I won't say I'm the most disciplined person in the world, but I'm not like crazy undisciplined either.
Right. Yeah.
It's so easy just to get sucked in, whether it's, waking up in the morning and looking at your phone first thing, or, especially into the day, after work, just kind of zoning out. Super easy to just get sucked in and be losing those intentional moments. So
that's right.
Highly recommend people check out Aro and, start taking control and taking those sacred moments back for their family.
I'd encourage people. One last note on that is, this is again one of these moments that we shouldn't overcomplicate it. Let's not overcomplicate it. I would encourage people to take that step today. Take it now. I know that may sound a little bit self-serving. I promise it's not. I really believe in this thing. I know it's made a difference in my life, and I've heard the stories coming out from other people. But let's not overcomplicate this. Just take your step. Aro is spelled A-R-O. Download the Aro app anywhere, and then you can couple that with, establishing those sacred times and sacred places and searching for moments of connection. You really kind of hypercharge those efforts in doing that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Joey, thank you so much for taking time to join me today. Really appreciate it. And I totally, again, will just say, highly recommend downloading the Aro app and getting connected with what Joey and his team are doing at Aro. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Joseph.